Hey guys, GWS here, and David's packing yet more bullshit. So let's get into this. This is the second episode, and before I wanted to preface this whole thing, like the individual videos, by looking at just kind of the tone of Pakman's videos, um, and just comparing it to his general impact. And I kind of wanted to give that overarching thing just to kind of let people understand that left wing media is just very, very negative toward Trump, like disproportionately negative when compared to the American people. Like, yeah, people overall disapprove of Trump, but it's like people don't take a position based on the opposite of Trump's position. So let's look at the title of this. Half of Republicans think Trump should be able to close media outlets, which is based on, I guess, three different media outlets. I'm not sure if there's a centralized polling agency that did this, but the reality is like if you read the full thing, which we won't hear, um, it's about 43% believe Trump should be able to, yeah, 43% believe Trump should be able to close media outlets versus 36% disagreed with that statement. So that's a plurality of Republicans who believe that Trump should be able to close media outlets. And then you got 48% who believe that the media is the enemy of the American people. And then you got 79% who believe that outlets treat Trump unfairly. And see, here's the thing, and I don't think, like, Pakman just doesn't get it, and neither does the left-wing media, any of the left-wing media. And see, here's a thumbnail. Trumpists don't understand First Amendment.
We've been following.
So, first of all, I don't think Packing Bullshit here understands what this poll means and what it's saying. So, first of all, just to go back to the first video, when you shove a poll in people's faces and it's not their primary subject of thought, like, people aren't going through their day thinking, like, should Trump be able to control the media? No. But when you shove questions in people's faces, it's like, yeah, they're going to be adversarial if they believe that you've been incredibly unfair to them. Even if they don't, like, if they were to think about that question, like, they would not hold that position. Because it's like I said in the other video, people vote in these polls with their hearts. A lot of people are not politically involved. They have better things to do. They have jobs, they have careers, they have kids, they have cars, insurance, they got bills, they got things that they want to do, vacations, etc. There's a lot of things going on in people's lives other than politics. So it's like, but people like have a vague understanding of at least the tone that's going on and of at least the bigger stories. And so it's like when you shove stuff in people's faces, like when you start parading about Alex Jones being removed from YouTube, like David Pakman has a couple videos on Alex Jones being removed from various social media platforms, and it's like people see that, and it's like, you're going to remove him. Okay, why should I support um, stuff with a left wing spin if all of our right wing material is getting removed from our platform of choice? Like, that's the way people look at this. Because, like, when you ask a conservative, and I've been there and I've done that, and, like, when you ask a conservative, like, why do you support this? And then they're like, well, what about left wingers deplatforming right wing speakers? There's a lot of whataboutisms, and some of it is whataboutism, but although I gotta say, Mr. Packing Bullshit here is a little bit hypocritical on whataboutisms, as is Kyle Kalinske. Secular bullshit. They're both very, very hypocritical when it comes to whataboutisms because, they'll use whataboutisms for stuff like wars, etc. You know, well, you supported, yeah, whataboutism, you know, it depends on the point you're trying to prove, but I don't want to get too sidetracked. Now, the point I'm trying to make is this, is that people look at this and people get asked these questions and they think, well, they're trying to shut us down, so why not shut them down? They're trying to deplatform us, so why don't we fight back? Why don't, yeah, the media is supporting this deplatforming, accusing us of being Russian bots, for hashtag walk away. Like, the media was literally accusing members of the hashtag walk away movement of being bots. Even though, in order to even register for their group, and I'm part of their group because I walked away from Democrats too, um, like to be a part of that group, there's a manual verification process, right? So it's not like someone could just go on there and post their video to hashtag walk away. No, you gotta verify who you are. You gotta say specifically, and then they'll look at your profile, and then they'll accept you or decline you, whatever. So that's the thing. It's like people aren't literally saying that, and it's like that should give you the clue. 48% think that the media is the enemy of the people, and almost 80% of Republicans believe that Trump has been mistreated in the media. Then it's like, yeah, there's your answer. So it's not a First Amendment issue. And what's amazing to me is like this whole free speech thing that Packing Bullshit here loves to misrepresent, and he does it every time. Because whenever people say free speech, he brings up the First Amendment. And it's like, no, that's not what people are talking about. When people say free speech, they're not talking about text in a constitution. Free speech is a principle. It's not a mere right. It is a human right according to the UN, your freedom to express yourself, but free speech is a principle. It's a principle that states that the best ideas come when you will allow people to freely express themselves, because that is when all ideas clash, and in the free marketplace of ideas, the good ideas will almost by definition win out, because those are the ideas that are going to gain momentum, more popularity. And why do those ideas get momentum and popularity? Not because some, like, God corporation or God government or what have you decrees X is right or X is wrong. No, it's going to be because this is the way the people are moving as a whole in terms of expression. And that has to do with a lot of things. It depends on what you're expressing. If it's something merit based, and the merits of that thing that you're expressing, like the ideas that have the better merits that produce the better results, are going to eventually, over the course of time, be accepted. And yet, there's exceptions. There's always like times where like it's not a continuous upward curve of the best ideas. And honestly, what defines the best ideas to begin with is like there's no objective metric for most things unless you're narrowing down the definition. But the point is that free speech is a principle, and the First Amendment was built upon that principle. That principle that if you allow people to speak, the best ideas will come out. And it is not for the government to decide what the best ideas are. And that's why that was very early on. That's why I believe it was even an Englishman right too. I don't think it's just First Amendment either. It's been a principal right for a long time, at least in Western society. And so that's the thing. It's like left wingers need to get off the straw man of the government. We're not talking about the government. And in fact, he just released another video, which I can give you a little bit of bonus content on, I guess, because it kind of relates. Yeah, here it is. Is Alex Jones' YouTube ban about free speech or it continues antitrust? Yeah, right here. Free speech or antitrust. And see what this is this is pretty much deliberate manipulation. Because what they're trying to tie this back to is, oh, you want the government to protect your speech on YouTube. Because what's antitrust? Antitrust laws say, like, okay, YouTube is too big, and since they have so much control over speech, they should not be allowed to get that big. What? That's not what people are saying at all. Nobody is saying that it has anything to do with the size of YouTube or that government should protect their speech. No. The reason for raising the issue of free speech is because, like, you gotta fight it as an idea. And that's the big thing. Because it's like I said, like, laws are based on um, a particular ethos. And we have kind of like an American Western ethos. And it's like when you start saying that, okay, hate speech should be moderated by companies. And now I say should. This has nothing to do with the government. So don't strawman me. Left wingers are perfectly fine with free speech being moderated by YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And in fact, are actually actively threatening Twitter over not banning Alex Jones. Like, there's boycott threats, there's basically anger toward Twitter. And not only that, they're trying to expand. You know, like, okay, you banned InfoWars, but what about this, and this channel? Like, why aren't you banning them? It's like, see, it's an encroachment issue, and it's these people don't believe in the principle of free speech. And it's like I said, once you remove the idea that free speech is an absolute from your ethos, it's going to follow in the government. Because that's the way these things always go. They always start out as just innocent little ideas. And that's why you have to fight the idea, the principle of free speech. And it's important that that be where the debate is centered. And so if you're a right winger, do not let them strawman you. Because we are not talking about the government at all. The government has no bearing on this conversation. None. Zip. But it's also hypocritical too, because, you know, of course, that point's obvious because, like, they'll defend the press till the day they die, but the moment that a right-wing outlet gets removed from these gigantic outlets, you know, they defend it like, that's not a free speech issue. It's like, even though when Trump attacks the media on Twitter, like, he's expressing his opinion. Like, he's not censoring the media. Like, he banned somebody for improper questioning from an event one time. But it's like, there were still tons of media outlets there. And the fact is, that actually caused something else in the question, which I can kind of go down that rabbit hole too, and we'll go down it a little bit. Like, press freedom is not supposed to be just for, like, big press outlets like the New York Times and all that. It's the press in general is in itself a principle. It is like basically covering and sharing large events. It doesn't have to be like the need for a press pass to get into the White House or whatever is just like, why do we even have it necessary for like the national news every time to get all the press passes? Like there are tons of independent media outlets, and it's like I even see them on YouTube. Like when I believe it was Lauren Southern years back, she first got access to the press room, the White House press room. It's like she's so thrilled, but it's like they don't get invited back because it's all mainstream media. It's all Washington Post, Huffington Post, the the big three mainstream media networks, and it's just, yeah, we're not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. It's just it's just unbelievable. I was just looking at something on my Alexa, but yeah, enough of that distraction. But anyhow, the point I'm making is this: is that, and I guess I'll close with this. If left wingers don't start understanding where Trump supporters are coming from when they say certain things, then you guys are gonna have a rough time in November. And yeah, I understand, like, you get your participation trophy for your Ohio election, Ohio District 12. But here's the thing, remember what month this is. This is August. If you look at August, back in 2016, it was the exact same thing. Democrats had these massive leads. Hillary Clinton averaged about a 10-point lead over Donald Trump in August. You could go back to RCP, you could look at what you want. Like, that's a fact. And even Democrats in Congress, they had these huge leads. And of course, once you get closer to the election and people start paying attention and deciding, that's when you're going to start seeing the big changes. And if Democrats do not start understanding where right wingers are coming from, it's going to be a long day come November's election. Thanks for listening, guys. God bless.